CAGED system, an extremely handy way to organize chords on your fingerboard. Unless you're learning fingerstyle guitar, then it's kind of useless. Right? Not right. Wrong. It's true that it works. It's true that fingerstyle guitar and CAGED system, they can hang out. It's just, can I actually say the words CAGED system? CAGED system. It's not, my tongue doesn't like it, but I always saw the value in the CAGED system. And once I realized that the players I loved were essentially using the CAGED system, just outlining the important notes, the notes that they needed to maintain their fingerstyle pattern, well, it all started to make sense. I could actually utilize it in freely moving versions across the fingerboard, all while effortlessly maintaining a moving thumb. There's always a little effort required. Today I'm going to talk about the CAGED system and my system, which is 100% the CAGED system. I just didn't know it. It's like an adapted version for the fingerstyle guitar player, using chords and shapes that I picked up from like a 25-minute uncut performance of Reverend Gary Davis that I've been working on for like 10 years. At the end, I'll show you a clip where he uses all 5 CAGED shapes, well suited for the fingerstyle guitar player, in like one 20-second chunk that you could spend the rest of your life trying to master, like I am. The CAGED system, you've likely heard its name. It just allows you to take one chord sound and move it across 5 chord shapes. The thing is, a lot of the chords you learn, they're not exactly practical for the everyday guitar player, especially the fingerstyle guitar player who wants to have a moving thumb. So for those of you out there who already know your basic first position chord shapes, those are going to help you a lot with the CAGED system, but they might not help you with the fingerstyle thing. There's a few alterations you got to make. So your first chords, you've got C, A, G, E, and D. As far as utilizing chords that are best for fingerstyle guitar, you'll notice one of them is not even in the CAGED system. It's F, although it is a CAGED chord. It's technically E, and we'll talk about all that. The F, I think you should learn that a lot of the greats use is this thumb over F chord. And then the other one would be a D chord with your thumb as well. That's just to kind of maintain the system of keeping that moving thumb like an engine. Now, I know not everybody's so happy about playing with their thumb or even finds it possible, but I do encourage you to keep trying, because if you want to get into this old music, there are notes that you just literally can't hit without your thumb. It allows you to take home position shapes across the fingerboard, which is the whole reason folks are learning CAGED to begin with. The only difference is I'm using shapes that allow for the moving thumb, which just keeps that fingerstyle mojo going. So the CAGED system, before we get into all the alterations, for those who need an overview, these are the 5 shapes. So C can become C sharp, and moved up the musical alphabet to whatever chord you need. Same thing for A, same thing for G, same thing for E, same thing for D, although this one's kind of hard. Now my system, it's roughly the same. I just don't call things by their CAGED terms, more commonly used shapes than conceptually viewed names. For example, this chord, this F chord, whether you play it like a bar or like a thumb chord, it's really an E chord. I just would never call it that. I call it an F chord no matter where I put it. I call it an F shape, because that's what you commonly call it in first position. I wouldn't ask you to play an E chord on the first fret. I don't know, that's just weird to me. So as far as what I'm calling fingerstyle CAGED shapes, like if you wanted to move that shape anywhere on the guitar, you've got a problem string, and it's right there, right? That string is still open, which is why folks learn it like this, so that every string is closed. What we're gonna do actually is just move that finger to the problem string, which is right there, which is the string our thumb travels to. And it kind of sounds a little more like fingerstyle guitar. When you're talking A shapes now, instead of doing this, we're just gonna grab the upper 3 strings, and we might grab the low one with our thumb. We might grab 2 strings with our thumb. The G shape, we're actually gonna just play the upper 4 strings, and we're actually gonna call it an A chord. Again, commonly used shapes versus conceptually viewed names. We mostly see this chord show up as an A shape, or at least we do first, right? So when we move it here, I still call it a long A shape. To that point, when I play this CAGED E chord, I'm gonna call it an F shape, because it shows up first as an F. The D chord way up here on the 13th fret. We can grab our thumb, which is really hard on a 12 fret guitar, but we can move it anywhere else. And we can grab our thumb there. We can even grab our pinky there, and we have a bunch of cool sounds to grab. Now, consider all this as we explain this tune by Rev Gary Davis, Oh Glory, How Happy I Am, where he uses all 5 CAGED shapes in like one 20-second chunk. So this first chord he's using, I would call it a thumb over G. It's technically coming out of the E shape in CAGED system. You're gonna want to skip that A string. Let that just be muted. Don't even worry about it. And you're just gonna grab these top strings. And he also utilizes that open E string. So you could also use your pinky instead of the open E string. Both are well suited for this thumb over grip. Going ahead, he has a C chord. Back to this thumb over F shape, making a G chord, of course. And then he grabs this little bit of a C chord, which is the middle strings of a CAGED G shape. And then he moves to this G chord, which is just a D shape up the neck. He actually fingers it like this, because the next line goes, so it's just easier to play. And that little chord there, that's the upper structure of this CAGED A shape, right? It's just the upper structure of this D chord. Now, this is something you could do. You could also add bass motion below it with your thumb, if you wanted to. He doesn't do it in this instance, but he definitely could. And then he moves to this nice little 10th chord run. I want him to do this, but he doesn't. He just jumps up to this D chord. But it's almost like your ear completes the harmony without it being there. Just recycling familiar shapes. We got the upper structure of an A chord, moving to the CAGED E chord, or what I call the thumb over F chord, and then this is the last chord here. Now it's going to look very familiar to you. It looks like this, right? So it almost looks like a C shape you played back here with your pinky, but we're grabbing the 6th of that shape, moving to a D chord, which is that upper part of the A shape, back home to this good old thumb over chord. Alright, if you want to learn this tune and a lot of tunes like it over on the Patreon, you can sign up for $5. You get that tab, a slow play along of that tune, plus like it's just dozens of tunes like it. Or if you want to dig a little bit deeper into the ways our heroes thought about chords, I got a video here I did recently about 8 chords and 4 ways to make them, and bud, that's all there is. We'll see you there.